Hello. I never actually. Hello. Hello. Sometimes it doesn't tell me when I'm live, but I think I'm live now. So here's hoping I am. Hello. Hi, everybody. Whoever might be tuning in or might be popping in and having a peek at what I've got here to talk about. I'm Rachel Clarke, otherwise known as R.A. Clarke. So I guess the reason why I have a pen name really quick is because I write adult fiction. So I wanted to separate that from my kids fiction, as you can see there, the big old bike. And I write children's books. I've got some picture books coming up, so I don't want to confuse any readers or parents or anything by having content that would not be for kids under that name, Rachel Clarke, which is my given name. Make sure I'm pointing in the right direction. So that's why I'm R.A. Clarke when it comes to my adult work. So, something exciting today has happened. Oh, I might have to change something in my settings. One more second. I'm not sure. Hopefully this will be okay. I don't do this very often, so here's hoping that this all works. Okay, I want to talk to you about if someone's around and actually is watching and can make a comment and let me know that this is working. That would be incredible. So today is exciting. Today is January 20th, 2026, and I am here to talk about my new book that just came out called Hatcher. Here it is right here. Woohoo! Hatcher. I'm pretty excited about this book. It's a novella. It's about 30,000 words, so around 153 pages long for readers. And it's a science fiction story with fantastical elements in it as well. It's basically, the story revolves around a woman named Neve, and she lost her husband to a volatile portal 10 years ago, and she's been consumed by grief. Her life has fallen apart from that tragic event. They're both what we call hatchers. They're a military organization that polices, investigates, guards all of these portals, which we call hatches, that are throughout the sky in the world that they live in called Malanga. And so her and her husband are both hatchers. He went to investigate Hatch 212 and never came back. So Neve, 10 years later, they've been trying to figure a way to go back there, to get through that portal. It's been so volatile. They haven't had much success until all of a sudden a probe flies back through. And the probe carries a message from her husband. And so he was alive, or at least he was when the note was sent through. So she suddenly obviously has this fresh, invigorated, spark of hope. And thus the story begins with her. She's going on this mission to try and find and rescue her husband. So as all good stories, do, things kind of fall apart and go awry and this and that. We love to put our main characters through heck. That's the nature of being a writer. If it was too simple and easy, then who's going to read that? I gotta make it fun and interesting. So, there's a lot of things that happen. There's some creatures that maybe come out of the woodwork. Lots of drama, lots of conflict. There's a lot of things that, I hoped would make people think a little bit. It's deals with some heavier themes, including suicide. Obsession, grief, love, loss, how we deal with that, and self-regulation, and all these different things. Even familial estrangement. There's lots of different themes that kind of are touched on within this book. So, it's a short book, but it packs a bit of a punch, I guess. I'm hoping that folks will read it and get something out of it, from their own individual perspectives. Everyone's going to be different in that regard. Isn't that the nature of things, right? Writing is so subjective, and so is the reading experience. It's different for everybody. Everyone perceives things in their own unique way. So yeah, gosh, it's tough when you don't have questions flying at you. what do I talk about? So I think what I am going to read an excerpt. So I'm going to read the first chapter from the novella. For anyone who's curious, they can kind of listen in, and if it piques your interest, please consider grabbing a copy. I love, and if anyone does see this, or even just reads the blurb and decides they want to check it out and buy a copy, please do. So this book was published from Alien Buddha Press. I submitted a funny story. Well, it's not a funny story, but a story. I submitted my book to a few different small presses who showed some interest in it. I had pitched it on X through these pitch party events that they have. So it was pretty incredible that I got some interest from some presses, and I also sent it out to Alien Buddha Press. So yeah, it was pretty incredible. There was a request to see more, and Alien Buddha Press read from Alien Buddha Press specifically. He replied very quickly with a lot of interest, saying he was quite enjoying it and he was wanting to grab it, which is awesome. That was pretty exciting. I was like, oh, great. So away we went, and that's how the book kind of was signed on for this deal, and it was very quick. He's a fast worker, and I got to work on the cover as well. So I had created a bunch of cover images for, again, different like pitch events on X and whatnot, and I showed him, my publisher, these as an inspiration, just to say, hey, like, this is kind of the vibe that I've been going for, the things that I've put together. And he quite liked some of the images, and he chose, and we ended up just settling on this one. So the one that I had sent him was a lot rougher, more rudimentary, so I was like, okay, if we're doing that, that's amazing, I love it. But I need to polish that up and make that nicer, so that's where this finished product came in, and I'm quite happy with it. It really pops. For me, anyways, I think it really pops. My eye is drawn to it right away, and I love that. I mean, that's what you want in a book cover, so yeah, and away we went. So the book came out. We scheduled it for the 3rd. It was supposed to be on the 3rd, technically, but we ended up pushing it back to the 20th, so here we are today with this lovely book that's come out. So this story, I should say, I actually originally wrote it as a short story for shout out to the Writers Workout and the Writers Games, which is a contest that I take part in pretty regularly whenever I can. It's like a marathon event. It's like 5 weekends of writing with different prompts every weekend. It's an intense experience, so anyone that likes a challenge, check that out. I wrote this story for one of those, a few years ago now, and let's make sure no one's telling me that I'm having issues with the broadcast. 1 second. Okay, no, we're good. Just want to make sure. So I wrote it for this contest. It was one of the weekends, and I can't even remember the prompt right now. I'd have to look back and check that. But yeah, it obviously probably involved world building, because that's usually what I love. And then the upper word counts are usually somewhere around 5, sometimes even 6,000 words that they'll allow you to write, and I inevitably always write to the max. Like 89% of the time I'm writing to the max word limit on these contests. And so yeah, that's how Hatcher began. I wrote it for that. But I knew it needed more. It's a world, and it's a character, Nev. I couldn't let her be. I had to come back to her, and I just knew there was more there. I don't know how to describe it. I was a bit consumed by that story and by the world. And so I kind of did a few different drafts, and I think I even submitted it to a few different submissions calls for magazines in shorter varieties of the story. And then eventually I knew that I wanted it, let's go all in and make this a full novella. I think there's enough here, and I kind of get some epiphanies along the way, and I knew that I'm going to expand this and really fully flesh this out. And that's kind of, eventually that's how it got to be where it is now. Just kind of slowly kept growing until it became something that I knew I'd be happy with. This feels finished. And that was satisfying for me. I think as authors, it's always hard to know, when is something finished. And I don't know if I ever truly know if something is like Like, is anything ever fully finished? You could always add and tweak, change some things here and there. I think with any story you can do that, but for me personally, a story does come to a point where it's just, something satisfying about it. I don't think I can ever say something is finitely done, but I don't know. I just have this feeling. It's this intuitive sensation of finishedness. I should put that on a t-shirt. A finite sensation of finishedness. Oh man. Okay. I have not been drinking to celebrate my book release at all, guys. Nope, not at all. Okay, so I don't know, I just get a sense. I get a sense for it. I'm like, yeah, this is done. I've said what I wanted to say. I've put everything in there. I've left it all on the table, and the story is done, and that's how I felt with Hatcher. So she is what she is. Yeah, I think so. That's the origin of the story. Nev is a complex character. She's not everyone's cup of tea. She's what I would call an unreliable narrator, and she's got a lot of stuff going on inside her mind and her heart. But I think that's gritty and it's real. We're all complex characters, and some of us have a lot more struggles and baggage to carry, traumas and wounds. We all bring a lot of that with us, especially as we get older. Just time, right? Compounds things. So I really, she resonates within me a little bit because of that complexity. Because as I'm getting older, I feel like I'm getting a lot more complex too. I don't feel like I could relate necessarily to Nev specifically as a person. Although, as I always put tiny fragments of what I've learned and what I know and my personality a little bit maybe into everything I write. But yeah, I wasn't basing her on anything specifically, especially not me, but I connected with her in a variety of levels because of that complex nature that she has and the struggles that she goes through, and you feel for her, but there's also some push and pull there emotionally when you're reading about her story. So I'm curious to hear what other readers will think. I haven't had a lot of people read this story, so honestly I'm a little nervous, like, oh goodness, what are people going to think? I think as an author you always have a little bit of those jitters when you're putting your baby out into the world for people to like or rip apart. So but I'm looking forward just to seeing what people will think, whether they like it, love it, or don't like it so much. It's okay, again, subjective. Everything is subjective. So alright, I think I've probably yammered on enough about the book, unless someone has specific questions. I'm hoping they would pop up here. If they did. And I'll read chapter 1 for you guys. Whoever might be watching. And yeah, I hope that you'll consider grabbing a copy. I will be having a book launch on February 28th locally here at the local Portage la Prairie Library at 1 o'clock on the 28th of February. So, and I'll be doing a live reading there as well, and answering questions and talking about the book, and I'll have all my books there with me. So anyone local in Manitoba that wants to pop by and visit with that, the more the merrier. I would love to have you come out and hang out with me for a little bit there. And yeah, today's my kind of official launch online, and I don't have my physical copies of my books that I've ordered yet, but as soon as they're in I will post about it and let people know. If people want to pre-order something, if they're unable to make the in-person launch and want to pre-order a book or like a paperback, or if they're wanting a signed copy, I can ship them within North America as well. So yeah, just hit me up, let me know. We can make something happen. I think shipping is only something like $4 in Canada-ish, as long as it's not too thick of a parcel. And maybe like $6 or $8. Maybe $6 to US. Anyway, I'll look into it for you if you want one. Okay, so chapter 1 of Hatcher. Here we go. Regimental Commander Taryn, who headed all units on base, had just called Nev into her office for a rare private chat. Why? Nev had no idea. She flexed her hands while entering the room as if such an action might stretch the uneasiness out of her. Directly across the door sat a wall of floor-to-ceiling windows which allowed a wash of light to cascade over her boss's tarnished metal desk. Halting and standing at attention, she took in Taryn's somber expression, a look she couldn't quite place. Concern, perhaps, or constrained dread. Yet something else seemed to shimmer there, too, something oddly hopeful. Unless she was entirely wrong and it was vexation. Nev's heart palpitated as different potential causes raced through her mind. Had she messed up in her last hatch investigation? Had Taryn finally learned her penchant for dazing out on the huff? Or could there be new results in the stabilization project? No, it couldn't be that one. Too much time had passed. However, the possibility gave her heart an extra flip. Nev tempered it immediately. Remain calm. At ease, soldier. Sit down. Taryn straightened in her seat and waved a hand toward the 3 chairs sitting in front of the desk. Nev declined with a shake of her head, preferring to stand at ease, but removed her wine-colored beret cap and secured it beneath her arm. You wanted to speak with me, Commander? One corner of Taryn's mouth turned up. All business, all the time. That's what I like about you, Steerin. You've come a long way since well, you know. You're an impressive hatcher. One of my best. Her lithe fingers rapped against the desktop for a moment, nails hitting with tinny clicks, then she offered a sincere smile. We go way back, all the way back, you and I. Setting rank aside for a minute, I want to say that I'm proud of the life you've made for yourself, Nev. Leaning on the precious family you have, finding a way forward. Family. Precious. Nev cringed inside. She doesn't know I haven't seen my children in 3 years, or about my addiction. The huff wasn't the only thing that got her through each day. The huff was the only thing that got her through each day, a wonder drug. Taryn took a file folder into her hands. Starting over after experiencing such a life-changing loss isn't easy, not at all. But it is possible. You're proof of that. You've set a powerful example for the hatch cadets you teach, with great success, might I add. And for your kids, your daughter, who's training to be a hatcher as we speak. You have churned out some exemplary workers, and, of course, you've completed some integral ops work for this regiment yourself. Nev nodded, unsure how else to react to the praise. Where exactly was Taryn going with this? The woman rarely showed any sign of softness. Even during their years as bunkmates while training at the academy, her shell had been unyielding. Without a doubt, she trusted the commander's words were meant supportively, and were genuine, too. Taryn was nothing if not a straight shooter. But they still scraped against the carefully composed facade Nev had been developing from several years of targeted therapy. If Taryn ever learned the full truth of Nev's private life, she might not opt to sing Nev's praises. A moment of silence passed. So, am I in Scrit or what? Nev asked flatly, fighting her own vulnerability. Had the regiment finally found someone else willing to do their dirty work in the problematic hatches? Were they writing her off as a liability? Was Taryn just softening her up now in order to uncover her lies? No. Nev couldn't imagine Taryn ever using tactics like that, and yet an undeniable trepidation of the truth being exposed quaked just beneath the surface, threatening to break ground. Taryn let out a low chuckle and shifted in her chair. Okay then, so business it shall remain. She pushed the file folder forward on the desk. Have a look. Nev grasped the folder and flipped it open, perusing the contents. A few short moments passed before she grew still, and she flicked her gaze to Taryn, who gave a simple nod in reply. Nev gripped the back of the nearest chair as all of her previous worries evaporated. The breath left her lungs in a rush. Is this real? Taryn clasped her hands together atop the desk. It is. During our most recent set of trials, a probe, one of ours, flew back through to us carrying that message. It's happened. We finally got the Hatch pulse treatments to work. A stable field of entry can be achieved. Nev took a seat, plucked the wrinkled note from the folder, and read the message aloud, her voice barely a whisper. Stop sending the pulse waves. It's hurting the planet. Tell my family I wish the world for them and that I'm so sorry. She fixated on the words while shock, elation, and bewilderment swirled like a violent cyclone, crumbling the icy barriers erected around her heart. Snapshots of memories flashed through her mind. A lopsided smile, his laugh, how his muscular arms had pushed their giggling children on swings, then held her close at night. The last time they touched, kissed, Taryn's pained expression when she was forced to break the news of Jim's loss mere moments before Nev had been scheduled to depart on her own peacekeeping mission. The image of Hatch 212 looming overhead in all the grim days that followed, when they lowered his empty casket into the ground. Does this mean what I think it means? Nev rasped, as a different and even more disturbing set of images invaded her mind. Images of her poor, stranded husband struggling to breathe, to eat, to survive on an alien planet all this time. Taryn nodded again. Yes, Jim is alive. Or at least he was when the note was written. Now, of course, we don't wish to cause any more damage. She leaned forward. But maybe that's something our technology can help with. It's worth finding out. Plus, Hatchers don't leave men behind. In fact, the Council has already sanctioned the use of 2 final pulse treatments to investigate 212 and bring him home. Nev locked eyes with the commander. The no-nonsense woman who'd once found her lying on the floor with 2 shredded wrists, who'd helped Nev salvage her tattered career, offering up support and a chance to return to the regiment when others doubted. Taryn hadn't given up on Nev then, and it was clear she wasn't giving up on Jim now either. Moisture swelled, pushing a tear beyond the brim. Thanks be to the almighty creek, god of the skies. She reached out and squeezed Taryn's hand, unable to utter a word. Taryn's eyes glistened as she whispered, We're going in, Nev. And if he's still alive, we're gonna find him. And that's the end of chapter 1. Hatcher! So yeah, that's about it for what I wanted to chat with you guys about. I'm excited. The book's out in the world, ready to be read and devoured. I love hearing feedback, whether no matter how good or bad or ugly, doesn't matter. I love hearing it. So, if you read this, and I hope you will, consider grabbing a copy. Let me know. I want to hear. And please, please, please consider taking just a moment of your time to leave a review on Amazon, Goodreads, or anywhere else where reviews are posted. Just a simple star rating, and even just, I loved it, or I liked it, or meh, this could be better. It doesn't have to be elaborate, just something. Every review truly does help the book get seen. It works with the algorithms and helps it reach more readers. That helps me. So that'd be amazing. Thank you in advance. And if you want to check out any of my other work, visit my website, rachelclarkwrites.com, or any of my social media. There's links there. So yeah, follow me. Take this journey with me. Thank you so much for the people that are. And I hope you have a wonderful night. Thanks so much. Bye.